Hey guys, my name is Bando, this is Breaks with Bando, and today we're going to be taking a look at my second part of the what can we use from 40k in 30k. And this time we're going to be using, or going through, the Chaos Space Marines. So it will be Chaos Space Marines, Death Guard, and Thousand Suns we're going to go through. Now, we'll start with Chaos Space Marines, just get it out of the way. And I want to talk about what is going to be covered in basically all of these, which is... how do I word this? There are some things you have to do for all of these kits, basically, that are applicable to all of them for standard Chaos Space Marines. In my opinion. This is all in my opinion, so you can take everything I'm talking about and you can tell me to go run, and that's absolutely that's your right. I'm not going to tell you this is my way, this is the only way to do it. No, this is just personal preference. This is just how I operate and how I believe. So this is the standard Chaos Space Marine. This is what we're going to use to start with, and these guys are good for a couple of legions, and there's a couple of legions they're not good for, and I'll get through the ones that I don't think these guys are good for to begin with. I don't think they are particularly good for Alpha Legion, Iron Warriors, or World Eaters, really. I also don't particularly think they're very good for Death Guard either, and that's because I think all of those legions look better when they are in their Imperial style power armor. They're plainer, the Mark II stuff, the Mark IV stuff, and to a lesser extent early war Emperor's Children. Late war Emperor's Children, these can probably work really, really well for. Night Lords, Word Bearers, and Sons of Horus. I think they work. Night Lords and Word Bearers at any point in the Heresy, I think these work fine. Sons of Horus, late Heresy, I think they work fine. That is all of the legions, isn't it? There are 9 of them. Yeah, it should be all of them. So, there's a couple of things here that I don't think really work. A lot of the heads don't work because they're too different to the standardised patterns of the period. So, these ones, the one on the... No, I don't want help. These ones, it took me forever to figure out what that little bleep noise was that comes off that page. I'd be on this and it would go bleep, and I'm got 15 different tabs open and like 30 different programs all over the place, and I couldn't figure it out for months on end. Which is really saying something for someone who works in IT. Sorry, tangent. This head is kind of okay. It's a Mark IV head, but it's very stylised. Works kind of well for the Word Bearers or for characters, Night Lords maybe. But the one with the horns doesn't. The only people I would use the one for the horns for would be a character in something like the Word Bearers. An esoterist would look really cool with that. If you could get someone holding it under their arm, that would look really cool. But most of these helmets are no bueno. But this is the thing. So, swapping out the helmets, swapping out the backpacks, and swapping out the shoulder pads and the guns for more Heresy era appropriate variants makes these guys look more Heresy in every way, shape, or form. Now, I'm sure everyone has seen my Sons of Horus at some point. I have posted them on this page. A lot of them are using these sorts of models. My new Night Lords also have these, and those are the sorts of changes I've made. These are corrupted Godwin pattern bolters, and they generally don't start showing up until after the Heresy during the Scouring. So, getting some of the plastic Mark VI arms and sticking them on these guys, it looks great, because it looks different. It helps blend them between the two worlds. It makes them look somewhere between where they are in 40k and where they are at the beginning of the Heresy. The other thing I like to do is to just trim back some of the excessive amounts of trim. So especially things like the little claws, I get rid of those. Little sort of just the triangles and the arrows I'll leave, but some of the more over the top stuff I will buff it out with some memory boards, and like the skulls, those ones are the really important ones. I get rid of, and generally I try to avoid anything that's overly chaos looking, because these guys aren't chaos space marines at this point, they are renegades. This is what they are supposed to look like after 10,000 years of corruption in the warp, and that goes across every single kit in the Chaos Space Marines. So whether it's these guys, with getting rid of these shoulder pads and replacing them with some, say, the Mark 6 smooth pads and the studded pads, getting rid of the little teeth, maybe sanding that down so he's just got a pair of Mark 6 legs. All of this is fine. It's quite easy to swap that out for like a Tigerius or Phobos pattern bolter, and the bolts still line up fine. Swap that for a Mark 4 or a Mark 3 helmet. Put a Mark 3 pack on his back. You can still use these. These are absolutely fine. These are just Angelus pattern packs. Avoid some of the ones with the more over-the-top bits on them. Keep those for characters, like a word bearer. Chaplain would look really cool with that pack on him. That's a great shoulder pad as well. Like that studded shoulder pad works really well for Sons of Horus. The plasma pistol, I just get rid of these forward-facing spikes. I just shave them off, get rid of the chain, and it's just a bit more of an archaic plasma pistol then. The knives are fine. The little dangly medallions, they're okay. The axe is fine. You may want to, you can quite easily sand that down and fill it in with some putty, and then you just get a really cool looking axe. One tip though, slice the top knots off and keep them if you're doing Sons of Horus, because top knots are peak Sons of Horus aesthetic. But yeah, these corrupted helmets, they don't really work particularly well. Plus you do get a lot of chainsaws and bolt pistols in this kit, so that's another good thing to keep aside if you want to make despoilers or assault marines. You got the Vexella as well, which is absolutely fine for Sons of Horus because it is just the Eye of Terror. Brilliant play on words, Eye of Terror, love that. Games Workshop's writers are, passable sometimes. But this guy's absolutely fine. Look, like I'd probably trim down this bit here. It's a bit much. This just that one. Swap out the pad, swap out the head, and that's about all I do to him. That's a little hard to get rid of. I have tried to get rid of that one before. You can sand it smooth, but why bother at the end of the day? Now the downside is that we used to do this because it was cheaper to buy some of these guys than getting a hold of things like Mark 3 and stuff. But they're £40 now, and for £40 I can pretty much buy, for a tenner I can get double the amount of Marines. So this is generally only in place for doing some chosen, doing some veterans, making something look a bit more interesting. It's a bit annoying really, but it is what it is. So if you're going to load... No, we're not going to load. Wonderful. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, let's go on to the next unit. Possessed. So, the Possessed are actually they're a new kit. They're actually really good. You can pretty much use them as is, minus this body, minus that head, for Galvorback. Ooh, did not need to do that. Yeah, absolutely fine to use them for Galvorback. Throw in some of the lesser or the greater Possessed from the other kit, from the I can't remember what kit it's called now. Yeah, they make some great sort of Galvorback. One thing I would do is possibly look at swapping out the heads and just throwing some random bits you've got in from Heresy stuff. Grab a Mark 3 helmet and stick it in there, and chip it up with your knife, or put a Mark IV helmet in there. Swap out, hands for holding Phobos bolt pistols and stuff. Actually, the dead Primaris guy, I would. You could probably just take his head off and put like a Mark III helmet or something chipped up in there, and you'd pretty much get away with using that. Yeah. So that's your possessed are absolutely fine to use as is, especially in a word bearer's army. They look fantastic. Throw in some Mark IV helmets, Mark VI helmets, whatever. They might look a bit small, so you might want to print some slightly oversized, but they would look really good. Accursed cultists, not really. Dark commune and chaos cultists. These can be used for a malicious and cults army, I'm sure. And with whatever, details we're getting in, in the future when we get some more mortal armies, these I'm sure will become more useful. Warpsmith. The Warpsmith is a very interesting model. His back is cut very weirdly. It's also cut down here, so it's not a pack you stick on. A lot of this is already part of his torso. Absolutely fine to use. He's clearly based off the Tech Marine, the Primaris Tech Marine. So he might actually be wearing Tacticus armor, technically, because it's got the bolts around the ankles. It's got the Mark X Tacticus style knees. So an absolute purist like me might have a problem with it. But all in all, for certain armies, this is, no problem at all. I'm just not a big fan of this cape made of all the cables. Not a fan of the backpack. I've got this model. My plan for it is to take the back off and replace it with like a Cataphractii Terminator back, and see if I can turn him into a Forge Lord. This is a big chunky boy. But for a source of spare parts, he's got a cool bionic arm. He's got a cool axe and hammer. He's okay for bits. He's not bad at all. The Warpforged and the Venom Crawler and Obliterators, not in a Space Marine army. They may be able to get away with it in a Demon's army or a Dark Mechanicum, depending what we get in the future. But as is, no, not really. They can't be used. Chaos Terminators. There are 3 ways these can be used. One, you can use them as the standard Indomitus Terminators in the Legends kit, or you can use them as Cataphractii or Tartarus. You just have to swap out the arms or the shoulder pads, really. For Tartarus, it's easy. You just swap out the shoulder pads. For Cataphractii, just for the look, it's better to swap out the whole arm, because they have the sort of the arm tassels, the Teruges. I really like these. The only problem you might have is some of the heads on them. I think the marine helmets, I don't know if any of them are Primaris. And it's great, a Grey Knight one, but you can paint that black and it would look like a Dark Angels one. Acadian pattern helmets were around at that time. That's a Mark VII helmet, so yeah, I mean, again, it could be a Sarum pattern helmet, or it could be a Siege Terror unit. I have thought about doing some of these guys for a Word Bearer Siege Terror army. Nice and late Heresy. But I also might be doing adding them to my Night Lords, because I'm quite liking the idea of doing some Tartarus Night Lords with these guys. If you are going to use these, I would recommend that you probably change the heads out for standard, either Indomitus heads, if you're going to do them as Indomitus Terminators, or look at putting the Tartarus helmets in them. The rhino horns, or the elephant tusks, whatever you want to call them, some of them might look okay, some of them might be a bit OTT. the shoulder pads again, and the trim, you're just going to want to tidy them up, get rid of the claws, that sort of thing. Yeah, I'm definitely going to get some of these for the Night Lords. They do look absolutely fantastic. Oh, I have such poor impulse control. The Chaos Havocs. These are an interesting one, because in theory, they are no different to the Chaos Space Marines. And the weapons they've got are all weapons that are available to the Legions. The problem is that the trim on them is a bit too much. They're massive, and I think they might just be a bit too far gone. Using one of these bodies with one of the weapons as like an armistice in a late war Word Bearers, Night Lords, Sons of Horus, that sort of army, I think would work. This body here, for example, could work for a character of some sort in a really late war situation. However, I just think these guys might be a bit too far gone. I mean, I might be wrong. It might just be down to my level of modelling ability. The rocket launcher guy, however, is a good source for making cheap servo arms for traitor forces. Yeah, I just think that's a bit too much. That's a bit too much. Absolutely hate this style of cable they've gone for. It's all rotted through. Just don't like it. Pick one. Go with a smooth cable. Go with a ribbed cable. It just looks a bit... I don't know. I don't like it. The heads aren't great either. They're definitely non-heresy-ish and a bit hard to work with. So it's a no from me, unfortunately, on the Havocs. Good source of bits, though. The Chaos Space Marine Saucer, I will say, absolutely is fine to use, as I've done it myself. I don't think I've ever shared a picture of it. I will eventually. Pads. I sorted out the arms, actually. I kept the staff. I kept both the arms for a different unit, actually, a different model. And yeah, I just trimmed some bits off, and I've used him as just a late war character. The backpack, however, is fantastic for like an Alpha Legion Praetor or something. I wish I could get loads. I'd love to do just loads of like elite Alpha Legion with this backpack. Oh, it'd be absolutely fantastic. Just look at it. It's that wonderful second edition Chaos Sorcerer, but you've got all the sort of like the snake heads down here that make it look really Hydra-y. And just sand down the eyes and just leave the sort of Hydra heads and stuff on them. Oh, it's fantastic. It's brilliant. Love it. So yeah, I did get rid of the Psychic Hood though. The weird Psychic Hood, and his head is not a great one. I think I've used his head in my Night Lords, but I shaved all of this down because it's just a bit too far gone. Maybe throw it onto one of the Galvor back models. That would work. But as is, a bit too far gone. So, the Lord Cypher. Cypher works, but not for Chaos Space Marines, not for traitors really. I mean, you can do, but this could be a Moritat, or the basis for a Moritat for anyone. Get rid of the sword. The backpack's really interesting. If the sword wasn't moulded into the backpack the way it is, that backpack would be fantastic. But he does have some really nice armour. It is a pity that his sprue is cut the way it is, because it does make a lot of his parts not really usable for kit bashing. But yeah, you could use him as a basis for a pretty cool Moritat conversion. Even take that off and give him like a really honking great big axe, so he sort of stood there with that resting across his back, and then maybe get rid of his hood. Look at the top of that. Yeah. Get rid of the hood, drill that back, and then replace it with a helmet. That'd be pretty cool. And he's like reaching for his pistol when he's got the axe on there. That could work, yeah. He appears to be wearing sort of Mark IV-ish armour. Possibly, yeah, it looks like Mark IV. So that would work. You'd have to get rid of the Dark Angel symbol if you want to use them for anyone else. But yeah, more or less, he can work with a little bit of kit bashing. Fabulous Bill. The backpack works really well, especially for things like Night Lord apothecaries. The rest of the model, I feel, is just too identifiable as Fabius Bile. There are bits that could be used. This arm possibly could be used for an apothecary. This arm could be used for something. But, and the backpack, of course. Oh, if I could buy the backpack separately, I would. Just get rid of this horrible bit here and use the rest of it. But yeah, I'd say that, Fabulous Bill is just a bit too far gone, and it's too easily identifiable that it's him. On a side note, I do hope we get a Heresy era Fabius Bile model. I think that would be a really nice, model to get. Lord of Skulls, no. Noise Marine, we're going to skip over that one. That's not a true answer. The Chaos Land Raider. I will just do one Chaos tank. I won't go through all the tanks because otherwise we'll end up here for an hour. We've already been here for 20 minutes. Yes, basically all the Chaos tanks can be used exactly how it was when I talked about it for the regular Space Marine vehicles. These were around during the Heresy. They're absolutely fine. See if you can get yourself the Mark IIB style sponsons, and they fit in really well. Chaos tanks work absolutely fine. The Chosen Sea Tactical Marines, absolutely fine. Great source of bits. Not all of the kit can be used because a lot of it's really far gone, but I did use these guys for the basis for half of my current Night Lords. So yeah, I think these are absolutely fine. You just need to do a little bit of tidying up and trimming, avoid some of the sillier helmets. Other than that, I think these are great. Noise Marine upgrade packs. Third company, absolutely fine. Definitely late Heresy though, not really early Heresy. Downside is that the quality of these sculpts is not the greatest nowadays. These are very old bits and they are showing their age. Let's do some characters. Master of Executions. Should be absolutely fine, especially for things like Night Lords. Empress Children would be really good. Little bit of tidying up here and there. To be fair, for a Night Lord's character, you can pretty much, the only change you have to do is snip off that central spike to get rid of the Mark X helmet. For Word Bearers, you could do that with a good paint job. That head also could work for Space Wolves, ironically, because they are known to wear these sort of leather masks. That is a face only a mother could love. That's great. I do want this guy. The Venerable Chaos Lord in Terminator armor. Now, this is a multi-part kit. Can be assembled as a regular Lord or as a Chaos Sorcerer. Is absolutely fine to use. Thin back the trim. You can't take Indomitus characters, unfortunately, so I would recommend throwing on some Tartarus pads onto this guy. Obviously, getting rid of the maybe getting rid of the Tyrannid skull. He's no problem at all using this guy. He's a good kit. This is actually a solid kit with a lot of spare bits in it. They're actually pretty cool. And it's well priced actually for what you get in it. If you are looking at doing some naughty boys for your for your army, this is a good one to pick up. These spikes, these are actually really good for like chaosifying the Mark 6 kits, because you can stick them on like the shins, and it just looks really cool. So yeah, lots of interesting little bits here that you can use. I might have still got that head somewhere. I might use that for 1,000 suns. Cultist Warband, same as above, can be used, but you'd be looking at militias and cults and that sort of army. The Fallen would probably fall under the same thing as the Dark Angels veterans. There are bits in here you can use. Most of the visible legs are Mark 6. I think all of the visible legs are Mark 6. It's a good kit for just bits. If you're doing Dark Angels, this is a great thing. You could use some of these rogue legs for word bearers. They'd fit in some 1,000 suns possibly. If you threw some Mark 4 torso fronts on them, they could make some really good bits for characters for 1,000 suns. But mostly this is just the Dark Angels kit, so you know, all the normal Dark Angels memes. The World Claimer. He's a good model. I actually really like this model. He's got some interesting character to him. He's got a Heresy pattern jetpack, which doesn't seem to have as many of the teeth on it as the Raptors ones do, which is good. So yeah, tidying him up, sanding down some of this trim, getting rid of some of these spikes. Yeah, I don't see any problem with this. The big problem, the base. You'd have to get rid of that marine. But other than that, yeah, he's a good model. It's a good spear. Actually, how's that cut? That's pretty cool. That's a separate 25 quid. That's an expensive model though. Yeah, he's not bad. You could definitely use that. You just have to, you know, trim and tidy up depending on what legion you're running. So no problem there at all. Probably fill in the chest there. I can't really see the details. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be like beaten metal or if that's supposed to be bare chest underneath it. And I'd swap the face out, swap the head out for like a Mark 4 helmet or a Mark 3 helmet. The Dark Apostle. Yeah, for word bearers, he can be used as is. No change. Maybe the head. Yeah, throw a Mark 4 sergeant's helmet on with the sideways brush thing, and you've got yourself a really naughty Kurthus Ed style mini there. These guys would be somewhere else. They're not really. They're a bit too far gone for 30k. But this guy, he's absolutely fine. I'd probably swap out his backpack for a standard, if you can. Yeah, it looks like you can. Yeah, I'd probably give him just a standard Mark 3 backpack. That would sort of tone it down a little bit. The Warp Talons and the Raptors. These are really good for Night Lords. The trim has definitely been turned up to 11 on these guys, however. They can be used. They do need a lot of work to take that trim back. Unless you are going to run them as something, you know, like Night Lords or Word Bearers. Depending on your modelling ability, the packs can be used. They're clearly Heresy pattern packs, but those teeth are annoying to clean out. Even with a sharp knife, they are a pain in the backside, because those bulges go all the way down to the rotor blades inside. What this is as a kit, is a really good source of things like chain swords, power swords, lightning claws, and all sorts. That is a fantastic use for this kit. Some of these lightning claws are absolutely brilliant. Sorry, I'm still not 100%, and I've still got a crazy sore throat. Let me just fuck on a threatful. Yeah, so these the claws, I've used them for a lot of characters, a lot of veteran sergeants, that sort of thing. So not great not sort of saying you can't use them, but they're not high up on my list to use them as assault infantry. But I would definitely recommend getting at least one box just to use them for the parts. Chaos Bikers actually can be used as is, with almost no change whatsoever. They've got Mark 6 legs. Swap out the helmets and you're basically done. Helmet and pads is anything I would change on that. They are also the only source of the old style Anvilus pack, which is one of the best backpacks that Games Workshop's ever done. They are fantastic. Just watch out, because the spikes on the side of these bikes, these ones are unbelievably sharp. The amount of times I have actually jabbed myself on those things. These ones down here. Oh man, they actually draw blood. They're evil. Chaos Spawn, possibly used in a demon army. Kill Team Blooded, again, Militia and Cults maybe. The Despoiler, you could probably use as a Terminator Praetor. You'd have to do some work. Like Fabulous Bill, he's pretty identifiable as a bad one. So I wouldn't bother. You, in theory, could make a pretty cool Horus conversion out of it. A bit cheaper than GW's, but Forge World, sorry. But purists might have a problem with it. Legionaries, that's just the same kit as before, but with extras, so yeah, same answers. Lord Discordant, not really, but could be used as a basis for an interesting conversion for Dark Mechanicum. He could be a good source of bits, possibly taking him, the actual Lord, was it Archlord Discordant? He could make an interesting character on a jet bike or something. But as is, not really. That doesn't particularly work. Also, Games Workshop's obsession with stubbers. Ugh. The Defiler, the Forge Fiend, the Helldrake, the Mauler Fiend don't really work. They would be Dark Mechanicum, they would be something to do with demons. I am converting a Mauler Fiend at the moment for an upcoming video, and that hopefully will be a good one. The Chaos Lord, he looks absolutely fine, just needs the usual tidying up, maybe swapping some bits out, and you'd be good to go. The Hellbrute, I would say no. I know it's supposed to be a Castaferum Dreadnought. I don't think this is... I think it's too far gone. The only situation I could see this working was if you were doing a Serrated Sons Word Bearers list, and you were trying to really kind of get that possessed look on everything. Then I'd kind of be okay with that. I'd be like, oh, that's a really cool idea, actually. Any other option, any other army, I don't think it fits. Demon Prince, no. So that's the basic Chaos Marines. We are at 30 minutes. This is going to take forever. So, Death Guard. The Death Guard, actually, the Death Guard are going to be nice and quick. The Death Guard fit in as they are, only in one situation. And that is if you are doing a Siege of Terror army. If you are doing a Siege of Terror army, then 90% of this can be used as is, with almost no changes whatsoever. Because they emerged from their drop ships looking like this, and all of the other traders were disgusted by it. So paint them up in the Death Guard colours, in the bare ceramite bone, and go to town on them. Just make them as filthy as anything, and you'd be good to go. The Terminators, you might have some problems with. All I would do with that, I'd recommend, is just replacing all the shoulder pads so they are the same style of shoulder pads. So no one can go, oh, what terminators are those? They look at them and easily go, oh, those are all got cataphractic terminator pads, that sort of thing. The Plague Marines kit can be used for some conversion bits. Some of these torsos and some of the legs can be tidied up. I would trim away the spikes and some of the weird faces, but that's only just because I can't stand them. I think they look dumb. But yeah, if you're going to use these guys, they should be absolutely fine, but only for a very late war Siege of Terror and Scouring era force, because Mortarion even looks like this at this point. Okay, that didn't take too long. Thousand Suns. Now, Thousand Suns is one I've used a lot of, and the rule of thumb I have here is pretty much the same as I have with most of them, which is change out the heads, the backpacks, the not shoulder pads, and the guns. I have a unit of Rubric Marines that is done as a tactical support squad. All I've done is given them Mark III backpacks, Mark IV helmets, and flamers. That's it, and I'm done. You know, I left off the extra armour here, which is this piece. I clipped off just the extra armour. I left the loincloths. You could use these to make rotor squadrons, and the flamers, again, you can use those because there's nothing really wrong with that. It's just a stylised flamer. The heads, they're very identifiable as heresy, or post heresy, sorry. So you just really swap those out, trim down that eye for the hand. Exactly the same answers for the Exalted Sorcerers. These are a wonderful source of bits. I bought one, I'm still using the bits from it. I've just used that that pack, and several other bits to make a Esoterist. Obviously there's parts you can't use, like the weird chicken feet, but a lot of these pieces you can use, and they just make really interesting characters. So pick that up, definitely, and you can just use it to add interesting themed bits to your entire army. Magnus, I don't believe we've got rules for Demon Magnus in Heresy yet. The Infernal Master is fine. Swap out the tip of the weapon for something a bit more Egyptian looking. Ahriman's an interesting one. He does look very identifiable as Ahriman. I don't know if you'd be able to make him less so to pass as a generic character. But if you do, please let me know, because I'm sure he will look amazing. The Scarab Occult Terminators are absolutely fine. What I've done for them, though, is I just trimmed these off. So you leave the ring, but you trim the top off. I left just one on for the Sergeant. I bought a box of these, and I got a box of regular Tartarus Terminators, and I just added the bits together, so they are mix and match. So it's not fully this, it's not fully a normal Tartarus Terminator. There's a nice sort of mix between the two. They are currently in my 2 Prime box, so you'll be getting an update on those soon. The Vortex Beast, no, that's going to be a Demon Sing if it's anything. No Gauze, these are awful. Please stop selling these with anything to do with Thousand Suns. No one likes them. The rest of that we've all covered. And the new World Eaters. Mortals, go to Mortal Armies. Juggernauts can't be used. You could use Juggernauts in a Demon Army as just Juggernauts. Possibly use this guy on a jet bike, Maybe get him, if you can get him to fit onto a jet bike, that would look cool. The Lord Invocatus, no, his armour's just gone a bit too far. He's a bit too demonic. Khan could be used as a basis for a conversion, but he's not Khan from the Heresy. They've sold out everything already. The 8-bound could possibly go as some sort of possessed. I don't know if the World Eaters have their own version of Galvorback. I don't know the rules well enough, unfortunately. If they do, then they could possibly be used, but I would probably avoid them. The standard Khorne Berserkers, however, are pretty good. They actually have less trim than the standard Chaos Space Marines, which is pretty good. Hey, that's pretty good. Swap out the heads, swap out the backpacks, give them Mark III backpacks and, you know, some Mark IV helmets or Mark III helmets. Mark III helmets would be the best. And you'd be good to go. I wouldn't use any of the sort of respirator mask helmets, these ones. I don't think they really fit. I think the teeth look silly on them. If they didn't have the teeth on them, they might work. So if you can get rid of the teeth, if you're handy enough with the blade, go for it, because you obviously got the butcher's nails then. I'd also trim down as many of these symbols of Khorne as possible. I don't think that's something they really would have worn at that point. I think the sort of veneration of Khorne as a god would have come later. They are still world eaters at this point. And Angron is supposed to be Angron at that point. So we will surely get rules for him like this. And I can't imagine him, being out of place. That's all of them. Let's just do Chaos Knights as well. Yeah, as far as I know, all of these would basically fit the Questoris Knights. Do you want to do a knight household that has fallen that far that quickly? What you could possibly do is use this as like a centerpiece and then swap out bits for more loyalist parts, so that you can just see that the corruption is starting to set in. I'd like to build a knight. I generally haven't built any large models. The largest model I've ever built is a Wraith Knight. I've never really got round to building something big like this. So yeah, they're all pretty good to go. I'd probably mix and match parts with just the standard armigers and the standard knights for that. So that's it, yeah. Well, actually about the same time. We'll do demons quickly. Some of these can be used. We don't have full demons rules yet, which is disappointing. So I'm sure you could get away with making things like brutes and the like using some of these models. But until GW gives us a proper army list for demons, I would avoid putting any money into this to begin with. Right. Well, that's it, I guess. Yeah, so that's really kind of the chaos units you can use during the Horus Heresy. If you are doing a late war force, throw these guys in with your Mark VI Marines. They do scale quite well with them. I would, however, I'd say try to avoid it. Use them as a source of bits. Buy the odd weapon, the odd shoulder pad for a reseller for these sorts of things. Because the Heresy is not chaos versus the Emperor. It's a civil war still. It's supposed to be two human factions going at it. The only people who this should be your main source of parts for, really, I would say, is the Word Bearers. They're the only ones that probably would have gone this far that quickly. Which, again, is just my opinion, and you can tell me to shove it. Night Lords can get away with some of these parts because they were pretty renegade as well at that point, to the point where they were soon to be censured if the heresy hadn't kicked off. I do like these two models. These two guys are nice. Everything else sucks. Stop giving everything tentacles. So yeah, a lot of it you can't use, unfortunately. There are bits you can. Terminators are a good one. Yeah, that's about it, really, guys. I don't know what else to say. If you guys have got any questions, please pop them in the comments. If you guys have any requests for videos, anything you'd like to see me cover, stick them in the comments or drop me a message. If you want to see my work, you can check out my Instagram, which is in the comments or down in the description below, or come jump onto the Outer Circles Discord server, which is my usual hangout. Alright guys, my name is Bando. This is Breaks with Bando. You have a good day. Bye bye.